In today's episode, time clock compliance. Need a doctor's note when I return to work? Okay. The Karen that time fork got. So let's get started. Time clock compliance. Going to be a bit vague here as to the job because I still work at this place. After becoming burned out being a tech guy, I had an opportunity to work in a special program in a completely unrelated field, but one that made use of my secondary set of skills. I joined as a member of the department and, through a series of hilariously cringy actions by the head of the department, ended up being assistant to the director who replaced the director that hired me. He and I got along swimmingly, and we rebuilt the entire department to not be a money pit like it was before. Our time clock is web-based, but our internet connection is iffy at the best of times. Sometimes punches go missing or don't even get recorded. I asked for permission to have access to edit punches so the main office, that took forever to make edits, didn't have to deal with it. This was granted and things shaped up even more. As assistant director, I had a guaranteed 40 each week, but was hourly and not salary. Because of the frenetic pace of what I do, punching the clock can be tricky as I do lots of work before and after scheduled time. I do not mind this because my days are pretty easy in general and my boss and I are very casual in interaction. He trusts me and I wouldn't dare betray that trust. My erratic clock punches began to accrue overtime, and the CFO caught wind of this and gently told me that I cannot get overtime unless it's an emergency or crunch/busy in our industry. After talking with my boss, we decided to allow me to edit my times to get the straight 40 to appease the CFO. 3 years pass, and I asked for a raise. Hey, I had been comfortable, but 3 years without a raise seemed a bit much. The CFO grants my raise but tells me that I cannot edit my times, that I have to punch in and out like everyone else. I explain the situation to him, but he's old and set in his ways and says that this is the way things are. I tell my boss, who is not happy about this, but we come up with a malicious compliance plan. I clock in like everyone else, a few minutes before start and a few minutes after for end. These few minutes add up and before you know it, I'm getting at least an hour extra per week. The CFO calls me and says, "Hey, you can't get overtime." I asked him, on speaker with my boss in the room, who also said hello when I answered, if he wanted me to stand at the clock and wait for exact times to clock in/out. He said that would be acceptable, and my boss said, "Are you going to pay him time for standing at the clock on company property?" CFO was about to say no when I guess his brain jumped into gear and realized he was about to suggest something illegal. I explained that I sent CFO an email explaining that this would happen, copied to my boss, and that he never responded. He was warned and still decided to stick to his guns. "Go ahead and edit your times," he says dejectedly. "Oh no, sir. He will just keep doing what he's been doing. It balances out because he puts in so much extra work. It's only fair," says my boss. Now I get about an hour of OT and am left alone by the CFO. So glad I'm not on salary. Need a doctor's note when I return to work? Okay. Note, this was pre-pandemic. Scroll down to for malicious compliance. A little background, at the time I worked at a larger organization that had a staff of 1,000 to 1,500 people in a travel-related industry. As we all know about the travel industry, certain times are busier than most and during those times, non-pre-approved vacation/days off etc. are blocked out. If you call off sick, you need a doctor's note when you return to work. Generally the management doesn't care, 'cause it's your sick time that you've earned, but we all have that one guy. By the book Bob, we'll call him. By the book Bob got promoted 'cause he was a company man, a yes man, a dude who drank so much Kool-Aid that it oozed from his pores. It was nearing Christmas time, busy holiday travel time, so it's all hands on deck and several days before and after are blocked out for those vacation days etc. This blocking out extended to past the new year. I came into work on Monday and went home feeling unwell, nothing too terrible, just the feeling malaise. Something a day's rest and a good night's sleep should fix. So Monday night, I called in to let them know I was going to take a sick day to rest and recover and be at 100% for the impending holiday. So I call in, and who answered the phone but by the book Bob. I tell him that I'm gonna take a sick day since I'm not feeling too well. Without skipping a beat, her says, remember the holiday period starts tomorrow. If you call off sick, you'll need a doctor's note. As I mentally imagine him sitting on the other side of the phone all excited and happy that he reminded me of the doctor's note instead of wishing me well, I respond, okay cool. You want a doctor's note when I get back, right? Otherwise I'll get a write-up? BTBB yup, gonna need a doctor's note. Cue malicious compliance. Me, sure, no problem. What by the book Bob didn't realize is my personal physician is an old Asian man who gives zero fucks. He's gonna take holidays off. He's gonna take extended time off, cause well, it's his office and he can. Guess which office was closed until a few days after the new year? Yup. Am I gonna go off to the local non-emergency room on a sick day to camp out for a doctor's note? Yeah, no. Am I gonna pay out of pocket to go to another doctor to get a note so by the book Bob can be happy? Most definitely no. I guess my only choice is to hang out at home resting until the new year and then pop in and get my note. So I do. When I'm finally done with my sick time and get my doctor's note, it's now nearly 2 weeks later. I head back into work and drop off my note to buy the book Bob. When I get in, hey Bob, here's the note you wanted. BTBB, you were gone for long time bro. Me, yeah, you wanted the doctor's note and I didn't want to get in trouble since you said it was required. My doctor's office was closed until just yesterday. BTBB, you couldn't get the note anywhere else? Me, you gonna pay for my doctor's office visits? I smiled and walked out. The Karen that time fork got. This story happened within the last 20 years, back before germs were a thing. I worked at a restaurant that I can describe as, well, eclectic. Quiescence was like a mix between a Mumford & Sons Video, an Applebee's, and my aunt's house. Glass doors to get in the place, hidden on the back part of farm property, very hard to find. Imagine an unintentional speakeasy. How I got the job as expo here is quite the story as well, but I'll stay on point. My job was basically to make sure all food that went out to guests was perfect. At this place I did a lot of serving as well, despite never being assigned tables. When times were slower, I would entertain the staff by balancing plates, silverware, turns while pretending to trip. I would take my right foot mid-stride and tap the front of it to the back of my left foot, making my whole upper body lunge forward appearing to trip. It was a crowd pleaser and important info for later. One beautiful night a woman came in by herself, screaming of food critic, and was seated at Kara's, fairly new server, section. I made sure all of her stuff was extra on point, a little heavier on the sauce, etc. Like clockwork, the diner drops her fork. Kara was super on top of it, said I'll get another one for you ma'am and went, washed her hands, and returned with a new fork. As soon as she began to place the fork down, the critic yells, oh my god, could you bring a fork that you haven't touched all over the place? Kara was taken aback, as was I, closely watching a potential food critic. She came back toward me nearly in tears saying this is the 15th stupid *T thing that's happened today, I'm so done RJ. I consoled her and said I got this, hang tight, which was code for check out this shit that's about to happen. Cue malicious compliance. I come out from behind the server station with all the flair of a campy magician, using my left hand to flail my imaginary cape off of me as I tango strutted directly towards food critic's table, making sure she saw me, and my theatrics guaranteed she would continue to hold my gaze. My right hand held out an extended index finger as I continued to tango towards her with a shiny new fork, perfectly balanced on it. It was a longer walk than I had prepared for, so I slip coolly back into normal stride, then I pretend to trip as the fork lunges toward her but never leaving my finger. She flinched, shouted so bad it was comical, and all I could say was your fork, as I'm choking back laughter. I quickly turned back around, flipping my imaginary cape again, and was concerned at first because all I could see was the very top of Kara's updo. Crap, she missed it? Nope. She was buckled over in tear-filled laughter. Thanks for watching.